Good morning. This is another Inquisitor, and today's video is going to be about 1 year of D&D. In this case, 5th edition. So this video will be a campaign journal type of video, GM's thoughts, commentary about the whole experience of running a campaign of 1 year of D&D. A thing I've did in the past, but this time it's more about 5th edition, the current group, the current story. So this is this type of video. So if you don't like these kinds of journal, this won't be a video for you, evidently. So yeah, I'm gonna take my time because this is a vlog. This is my channel, and there was a commentary earlier last week that I'm kind of slow speaker, but yeah, that's how it is. I'm not even English, so yeah, do better. So for those who know me, I am a GURPS guy, Mutants and Mastermind, 7C kind of guy. But I'm also the guy who experiment with stuff, that play lots of games. I don't stop at just one. I used to have like the main game, GURPS being or Heroes Unlimited at some point, or Marvel. I used to be of that mind that you have one game and this is the main one and everything else is secondary. But now I'm more of a hopper. I hop from game to games and try to learn things or two between each of them. So these are my thoughts about running D&D 5e for a full year. It was not a thing I planned for, and it would have been the same running Pathfinder, I think, since my group liked this game. So it's kind of an happenstance of several factors that ended up being a 1-year campaign. I might explore the whys and the hows maybe in this video, but it's more about the lesson I've taken from it, commentary about the campaign, the group, and the story, maybe just a recap of the story. So this might get long. So maybe put the video, reduce the video, and maybe just hear the audio while doing the dishes. So I'll start with the lessons I've learned from running this game, this version, 5th edition. To give you an idea of what blend I use, because we used like a couple of books together. I've run this game with the vanilla rules. I did use the Sanity and Madness rule from the DMG because it fits the campaign setting I've chosen. So since we ran a couple of years ago a couple of very good Pathfinders campaigns, so this is like the core setting of what we used. But I had this system agnostic, setting agnostic setting book Freeport from Green Ronin. The idea of using this as the main setting came from when I started the campaign. As I was prepping the campaign, two of the new player at my table mentioned that they were wanting to play chaotic neutral character. So I just turned around and smiled and said, okay, you want to play basically characters have the can fuck with the GM license. So I'm gonna choose a chaotic neutral setting. There you go. Pirate City, Adventure City, where your alignment doesn't count as much and where good people are uncommon. So 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 that affected my choices, my choice as a setting. So I blend the Freeport setting into what we already knew from Golarion, the setting, the Paizo setting, and we started from there and went forward. Uh, I also used a lot of this book. I'm uh, I'm okay with the basic monster manual, but it's kind of all monster or all classic monsters are kind of a bit boring to me. So this huge tome contained more monster than the monster manual, so I would recommend this very much. Cobalt Press, man, is the shit. So I've used a couple of monster from there. So okay, so the lesson I've taken from running this game, first of all, it's very easy. It's easy to learn, easy to teach. It's easy to make assumption about the game once you know the basics, and you can make deductions, and you look in the book and it's exactly what you thought. So simple rules. Easy is both negative and positive in this case because we're experienced player at the table. We have a new one, a new player, but even him had a pretty epic learning curve. He just climbed up that hill like it was nobody's business. So shout out to Andre in learning the game. He already game when he was young, so he knew all about the tropes, and he is a fan of Critical Role, so he was pretty competent. Just sitting and play. He was ready. He was ready to cook. So it's a negative and positive because when a game positive stuff is, I'll just say learning the game is very easy. So it's very easy also to hack, modify, house rule, make the game your own. It's very easy when the game is easy. And having an easy game has some negative for our group. And here I'll use the comments of my players here. It lacks options, and leveling is not as exciting for player, which leads to another lesson I will talk about later. Second lesson, magic as a skill or a power. This edition do magic very good. Spells went from being very rigid to now include the possibility of casting a spell using a higher level spell slot to make the spell more powerful. So if we draw a trajectory of where this design might go, the magic system in D&D could end up being like in Mutants and Mastermind, Savage World, GURPS, where magic could become just a power, and depending on your level or your investment into the thing, you could cast greater effect. They might not do it in the future for future edition just because of the classic Vancian magic way of doing things, but still you can cast now your little tiny spell, but you can use a higher slot and boom, make it like very useful still later in your progression. So that's neat. That's very neat. It comes close to what I like to do with magic in games. Third lesson, magic items are meaningful. I've always done this with GURPS Fantasy type of campaign. Even to a lesser degree in Pathfinder games, since you kind of have to receive lots of equipment during the game to keep on a, I'd say, performant level when you meet threats. So magic items are more common in Pathfinder and in 3rd edition, but in 5th edition, even if you generate random loot after a combat, the game is not super generous, and when you get an artifact, it is meaningful. And there's all these tables to make each and every individual magic item, like having a backstory, minor effect that are not typically canon of each item. So you are encouraged to name the object and give them a backstory and think about who created it and etc. So they become meaningful, and I like that. It gives a very Lord of the Ring feel. When you find a dagger that glows, she has a name, she has a story, and so it's pretty good. Multi-classing. We found out as a group that D&D 5 he encourages multi-classing, and not every game master will allow it, but if you did not run the game before, it's maybe something you will not encounter. But multi-class character tend to be more powerful than one who stick to their original class. There are gaps in the leveling where your character will gain not so much, a couple of spells, hit points, but that's it. And when a player hit one of these gaps, the temptation to jump to another class to gain more power is very present. I think at this point in the campaign, after 1 year, we have only one character who is not multi-classed. So that's something. Our gunslinger multi-class ranger, our monk was already a multi-class monk and cleric. Our sorcerer became a warlock, and recently our pirate will become a cleric of the pirate goddess. So the whole team is multi-class. So that says something about player reaction, expectation, and contentment, and their reaction towards the game. So character being multi-class are mechanically a little bit more powerful. A GM could tweak the difficulty of each encounter. These days, I routinely throw a monster that is way beyond their reach, and they deal with it quite with difficulty, but they deal with it. That's the whole point. So proof that the party is better than what the book says. So Pathfinder's progression is more linear, more granular, but it has this edge. It's always up. Bonuses of skills, attack bonus, magic item, everything, saving throw, everything goes like this. But in D&D 5, the progression is very minimal, which is good. It's in phase story and character development, and it's good. It's pretty good. But there is this difference. And my group prefer a more upward level up, heroic type of character development. But this game is running for a whole year, so the group is still engaged in the characters and the story. And this game probably could be different a little bit in Pathfinder. It would have a different flavor. The flavor it currently has is so far satisfying for everyone, but it would be different. But in the end, I believe the characters and the story and the campaign are more interesting than what D&D brings as a flavor. So that's, or if it's not at 100%, it must be at 75% for sure. Maybe the game has a little bit to it, but really it's the story that made it tick for so long. Another lesson is the lack of social skill. I made a commentary recently on my Facebook page about this. Had a lot of reaction about this. It was just a commentary, like, so I chose to include it in this video. Coming from a GURPS background, I sometimes wish D&D had more social ways of dealing with NPCs. The fluff, the description, the narration is up to infinite, as with any game. But there is only 4 mechanical approaches you can have in a social encounter in this game, and it tends to make every social encounter fall into one of these 4 approaches, which makes it a little bit like Fate accelerated, with the different approaches you have. So the story will kind of drive what kind of approach you will choose, but the player can always push for the approach where he is very good at. The 4 approaches being, in this case, persuasion, intimidation, deception, and insight. So everything can be everything. You want to seduce the barmaid? Well, you could persuade her that you are extraordinary with persuasion. Or you could show some type of dominance and make her impress with your muscular presence, with intimidation. Or you could deceive her into thinking you are a good fit for her, or that you have good intentions. Or you can try maybe to know her, to dig inside her head with insight. So each of these would be a okay role for a seduction attempt, but there is no specific sex appeal or seduction skill. So you want to negotiate with the Thieves Guild? You can try again to persuade them that you're the real deal. You can show them that you're tough with intimidation. You can deceive them, and good luck with that. Or you could try to understand them and try to gain insight of what they want and try to make a deal, to break a deal. So anything can be anything in social role, and the GM will decide ultimately what skill will apply. But I could see like a whole list of additional proficiencies that the game could benefit from, and there's no streetwise skill, for example, no seduction skill, no carousing skill, like no gather information type of skill. It will always be one of those 4 solutions, which make it for an elegant design. But for experienced player who are more nuanced, that is lacking a little bit. So tools, another lesson. Tools. Well, competences with tools is kind of a joke at our table. It's something we don't really like about the assumption. The game is so easy, it's very easy to change, but we don't like the assumption that skills that are not skills, according to the games, they are proficiencies. And proficiencies are often about an object. which is insane. You want a ship, you want to pilot a ship? Cool, use your proficiency with a ship's wheel. And that proficiency disappear if you are on a little raft boat. So what we don't like that. We don't like that much. So tools are really like funny to us. It's a running gag, and we're about to play tonight the 40th session of it, and it's still a joke. That comes out of 1 out of 2 games, the joke come up. So of course they renamed them proficiency and set them aside to keep the skill list simple, but experienced player will find that funny. Like maybe like we do. It's kind of funny. Tools. Proficiency with a hammer, like. Yeah, next subject. Story focus. This is another lesson. We didn't power play through D&D. We started last summer at level 3. I didn't want to pamper some barely level 1 hero, so I went straight to level 3 to give them an edge, not knowing that at level 3 in D&D 5 you get these very powerful boosts. So it gives them like a solid go into the campaign, like to feel like heroes. And we went to level 8. We're about level 8. Mainly the group is level 8. There is one lagging behind for work reason and absence. So that's about 5 levels, covering 40 sessions. So make the calculation. That's about let's say 20. Oh. Can I do it? 5 level, 40 sessions. So that's about 0.125 level per session. Or the opposite, 40 session. That's about 8 sessions to gain a level. So that's pretty slow considering other campaigns I did with 3.0 and Pathfinder, but the story is so engaging that the player don't seem to mind this slow progression. Another lesson, it's about modification. I talked about it earlier. It's easy to rule, house rule, and hack. Do you notice that when people say the word hack, it's all stylish and cool, and when people say house rule, which is the same thing, people get like pejorative about it because a hack is so sophisticated. My impression after 1 year of D&D is that a GM will eventually house rule it and tweak it to. There's plenty of options in the DMG to tweak the game to one's need and preference. And even the designers of the game, like Mike Merles, a couple of weeks ago, he came with on Twitter about this new initiative system. Matt Colville talked about it. Reddit jumped into the bandwagon, and now I feel that every GM out there want to try this new initiative system. So it's kind of the way this game is built, and I feel every GM will have to tweak it to their needs, because it can become kind of predictable as a game, and it can become lacking in options and become very vanilla. So And last lesson I noted, maybe I forgot other, but I have to make this video kind of digestible. Long form story. It's been a really like a decade since I've did a proper long campaign, and it's been great so far. So I am grateful for that session, that campaign. We are still wrapping things up, but the campaign have legs. We feel that it might continue even after tonight's session, which is the 40th one. I'll talk now just a bit about the story. This might get boring because uh, some people don't like story time, but some other enjoy it. I Rhaegar, uh, the Dragonborn. I'll make it short. What is the story? So far, the story is about this company, the Saber Company. It's a privateers company from Freeport. They are tasked with patrolling Freeport's general area, protect merchant ships on pirates, and do the occasional adventure. And so far, the occasional adventure have been taking its sweet time. So our heroes spend most of their time adventuring. But they have a job, they have a duty, they have a salary, they have responsibility. They even have ranks among their little company. So I'll just here introduce each character quickly. There is Larissa Torment. She's a tiefling mastermind. She used to be an assassin. She started the game as an assassin, but she had a change of heart after a kill, and she became more of a planner, a strategist, a mastermind, especially after dealing with her family, a family of assassins in Freeport. So she became captain after the beginning of the campaign. She's the leader of the group, at least on paper, because of rank and function. She fell in love with the next character, and she's now leaning towards redemption and good. So it's quite the redemption arc, and she's currently interested in the rebirth of awakening of a gold dragon. So that would be the ultimate good for this world. So maybe this character is not so evil and dark after all. The assassin turning like into a good figure. And she also learned a few weeks back that she is the daughter of Captain Mortimer, Jasper Mortimer, who is the founder of the Saber Company. Uh, and now she carry on his legacy and his name. Second character is Zalandar Aranduir Dawnfury. He's a high elf. He's an elementalist. He controls the elements, and magic runs into his blood, his veins. Um, he lately offered his services to an ancient dragon named Enzovar the Foresighted, and he currently holds the mystical staff known as Dawnfire, which is the artifact that protected his village for hundreds of years. And his family was responsible for that artifact, and lately he visited on accident, teleporter accident. The group visited his village, and the family was down, and he had to take the staff, and he brought it with him. So he's the holder of this eternal fire, this artifact with an elemental fire inside a crystal on a staff. It's very powerful stuff. And he's falling in love also with Larissa Torment. They are a couple in the game. And he's also the lieutenant of Larissa when they are on the ship. He's probably the next the highest ranking member on the ship if the captain is not there. Third character is Jericho. He's an elf gunslinger. He's pale. He's always surrounded in shadow. He has a big hat. He's a gunslinger, always working his guns. He's mysterious and deadly. He made quite a couple of impossible shots at this point in the game, and everyone is amazed by his accuracy. He also came to this plane from another reality, via an invention of his, a plane-traveling sphere that he named the Planiscaph. He started slightly amnesiac about his background at the beginning of the game, but he's slowly piecing the pieces back together. He's a guy that came from another reality, to make it short, because the woman he loved, a Nelvan ranger named Shalilu, and Pathfinder fans and Paizo fans will know the name maybe here. He saw Shalilu get killed and was so angry about it. He came back to his hometown, started to study his master's old notes, and started to build a machine out of anger. And his willpower was so great that he succeeded in creating like a planar traveling device. He visited Sigil, made a friend, ended up in this universe, and like crash landed or in a catastrophe jump, and like his mind was affected and he was amnesiac. Fourth character is Aku. Aku is a lower wood elf martial artist. He's also a follower of the god Irori, the perfect god. Irori is represented as a monk meditating. He's the ultimate physical and mental perfection. So he's so perfect that he became a god, nearly. So Haku started as this monk with technique and a cleric of Irori, but he started as a sick and weak character. Andre and I, when we generate the character, he rolled pretty good stat all around for his character, and then he surprised me as a new player. He looked at his stats and thought about his idea for his character and voluntarily took big reduction to his stats. Find me a player who does that anywhere. I challenge you to take a 12 strength character or 14 even strength character and drop it to 7. Find me a player who does that. That's some commitment, and that's some talent right there. You know what kind of player you have in front of you. So this character was born with a disease. He was weak and was doing martial art to compensate, to stay alive. And I made a description of the challenge he would have to go through if he didn't train every day. So he, in the whole campaign, he learned about his illness a bit more. It's still a mystery, but he learned how to deal better with his illness. He learned the power of chakras and faith. He developed a technique with his fist that made his hand practically invisible to see. And lately, like last game, he was cured of his illness by like a holy monk, like an old man who is really not what he seems, with great powers. He stopped the flame of a dragon with his finger, and everyone was shocked. And later, he helped Haku figure out why he's sick, and he cure him or help him be relieved of that release? It's not sure yet. But this character is now buffed. He's like he's the real deal now. But now we still have other things to do thanks to his background. And last but not least is William Bastian VII, aka the Walrus. He's a big, round man. He looks like a sumo wrestler, but more round, like a ball. He has this big mustache, and he's dressed like a pirate. He's a character from another campaign. He's a noble. That was a kind of a joke, a pirate wannabe. But now he since have became the real deal. So he started the game as a privateer coming from another campaign. So he had quite the backstory. He was the ship master, barking orders on the deck. Lately, he became a captain of his own brand new ship, and very lately, he became a follower of Besmara, the pirate queen, after a 150 feet fall, and he survived. So he decided that his character had an epiphany, and he's a bit of a humor relief in our group, but he's also like very interesting. He has a dramatic side to it, and he's also the main frontline fighter for the party. So he's heroic, but he's quite vicious in combat. He fights like a pirate. So we long for a pirate class in D&D 5. There are some online, some are very interesting but unbalanced, and some are not interesting but lack flair but seems to be balanced. So, and you can make a pirate straight from the player's handbook, but it's not the same thing. There's lacking something. There's a pirate class in for Pathfinder and Freeport, like the freebooter class, and these are right what we would need normally. But since we are playing D&D, we have to stick to the established rule. So I'll end this video with just a quick recap of the arc. There have been minor arcs throughout the campaign, but there are two major ones. The first one being resolved. I could have called it the Saber Company Rises. The campaign opened with a legendary captain, Jasper Mortimer, who was killed in front of the PC, and that led to a shipwreck, the discovery of an island, and avenging the death of their founder and legendary captain from an orc pirate. And during this first arc, we learned about each character, we explored the game, we explored the rule, became comfortable with the setting and everything. And now I started to plant some seeds for adventure in every direction, and now the player don't know often where to go next. There's so much to do. Larissa learned that Captain Jasper Mortimer was her father, so now she hold his name. She's called now Larissa Tormund Mortimer, or just Larissa Mortimer, Captain Mortimer. And that was the first arc. Yeah, I'm trying to condense everything. The second arc is still ongoing after more than 20 sessions. I'd call it the Slavers and the Eternal Flame. It started with a simple mission: accompany, protect a merchant ship towards a dangerous pass. During the crossing of the pass, the guardian of the pass, a huge dragon named Enzoval, that I have talked earlier, destroyed the ship midway. The mission was compromised. The Saber Company had to make some choices. There was a revelation about the cargo of the ship, full of slaves. being shipped to the Dragon Empires, and the PC had to decide what to do with this. So they made a stop at the first next city, the city called Mizar, and they decided to free the slave, but of course, letting go, let, letting go of a group of slaves into a city where slavery is legal was kind of a double-edged sword, and they decided instead to propose the slave to the local sultan. One of his wife was in town, so they sold the slaves to give them a better life, and the slaves were okay with it. Half of the slave decided to become crew members on the ship instead, but half of them decided that it was a better life for them. So they sold slave in perfect goodness, and but then, as they took upon the sea, there was a evil slaver that hunted them. They fought this maybe just one arc into itself. They fought this slaver like real bad. He made such a bad impression on them that um, even his scimitar at the end was untouched. They decided to put it into a vault somewhere and not even touch it. Even if it's just a flaming scimitar, nobody wants to have this in their hand. It's like spit on the thing. It's like it's like, and it's a perfectly good magical item, but it's tainted. It has this reputation, and they just don't have to do anything with it. So to end, uh, the Sultan was murdered by one of the slaves they sold. The evil vizier took his place. Now he's trying to use an artifact called the Eternal Flame, which bears similitude to the Dawnfire staff, and try to rip the sky open to the elemental plane of fire. And the first wife of the Sultan is leading the rebellion with some local monks, and the PCs are trying to repair their mistake. They brought an assassin, a high-level assassin, to the city, and she did her job good. So now they are trying to save the city, redeem themselves, and maybe try to save the continent or the whole world. If a permanent door to the elemental plane of fire can be opened, it might be very bad for the whole world. So this is where we had at the campaign. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave it at there. See you next time.